Dunkirk, with thousands more spread along a 50-mile stretch towards Calais and Boulogne. Smugglers are offering so-called Christmas specials for crossings, with UK and French authorities bracing for a possible surge over the next 5 days. Border Force says it is on a heightened alert as strong winds are set to ease overnight, allowing for more crossings. More than 35,000 migrants have now made the journey so far this year. That is 20% higher than last year's total. Sir Keir Starmer has come under fire today for planning to jet abroad over New Year after spending Christmas at Chequers with his family. Critics have slammed his travel habits, with over 170 hours spent in the air since July, while key domestic issues remain unresolved, they say. The Prime Minister's team won't reveal his destination for the new year, but insists he'll stay in charge rather than handing over to his deputy. His latest foreign trips to Norway and Estonia wrapped up only just last week. Looking towards a better and a brighter future, that is the Prime Minister's Christmas message, his first in power. 6 months into his leadership, he's urging people to look after those around us, with calls for peace in the Middle East. Opposition leader Kemi Badenoch struck a personal note in her Christmas message, calling the season her very favourite time of year and thanking the public for their support and kindness. Meanwhile, Lib Dem leader Sir Ed Davey has paid tribute to young carers, sharing his own experience of looking after his sick mother as a child. There's been more Christmas Eve frustration today for Morrison's customers, with deliveries either late or even cancelled, and that comes more than 24 hours after a system glitch first disrupted orders yesterday. The chaos on the 23rd of December, the busiest grocery shopping day of the year, left shoppers waiting for deliveries worth hundreds of pounds. Morrison's has apologised but hasn't revealed the cause of the problem, despite repeated requests. And NASA's Parker Solar Probe is set to make history today on Christmas Eve with the closest ever approach to the Sun. The spacecraft will skim just 3.6 million miles from the star's surface, enduring temperatures of nearly 1,000 degrees and speeds of 430,000 miles an hour. Scientists say the mission will uncover secrets about the solar activity of the Sun, help to protect satellites, power grids and even astronauts. The spacecraft will then reconnect with Earth on the 27th of December after hopefully safely completing that record-breaking flyby. Those are the latest headlines for now. I'll be back with you very shortly.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Well, hello there. It's finally upon us, in the words of Noddy Holden. It's Christmas! How exciting. You know what, I thought it'd be rude then, wouldn't it, not to do a Dewbs and Co special. So here we are, delighted to be sharing this Christmas with you. And boy, have we got a lot to discuss. Let's cast our mind back then, shall we, to July. It feels like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? The general election. Still, massive debate raging on about whether it was the right thing or the wrong thing. But what did it mean for this country, and what will the future look like going forward under the Labour government? Of course, then we saw the budget, didn't we? Ooh, I can tell you now, that really did divide opinion again. Have they got their priorities right? Who were the winners? Who were the losers? And will we see any U-turns on some of the less popular measures? What do you think to that? And of course, a horrendous moment in our country's history saw the awful stabbing of 3 little girls. What followed then were riots and protests up and down the country. We remember it well, but what did it all mean for the future of community relations and so much more? Also, as well, a massive moment. Again, Donald Trump re-elected, selected again as the president of the USA. Goodness gracious me, there is so much to discuss. So, without further ado, let's get stuck in. Well, hello there. How exciting is this? I'm excited anyway. How are you? I am Michelle Dewberry and I'm with you for the next hour. Christmas special, Dewbs and Co. What a treat. And I thought to myself, who best then to spend the next hour with me and with you? Look. No one else was available, I'm afraid. Matt Goodwin, the pollster and academic.
Ho, ho, ho.
Bill Rammell, the former Labour minister. I didn't really mean that, by the way. There was lots of people available and I said, no, the audience love you too. So
sorry, who are you?
Well, who am I? That's a million-dollar question, actually. I often wander the streets live and I think to myself, who am I and how did I get here? I've never quite answered that, I can tell you. Anyway, how are you all you lovely people? How is your Christmas going? Lots that we need to discuss tonight, and you have had an opportunity to be very much part of this conversation. I'm excited to share with the nation many of your Christmas trees. You've all been getting in touch with me as well, telling me your highs and your lows of 2024. So, as I said, it's a lot that we need to discuss. But you know what? I thought to myself, since it is Christmas, it'd be rude, wouldn't it, not to start with a long-standing tradition of Dewberry Tavern. So without further ado, cheers to each and every single one of you at home. Cheers to each and every one of my panel.
Cheers, everyone.
Matt Goodwin looks like he's been in my Dewberry Tavern for about 6 hours already.
Cheers.
I've helped myself
Bill
to this
Rammel.
delightful cheese board, I should
know,
add.
yes.
We've got cheese in front of us. The nation watching on, we have cheese. Lots of cheese.
We have lots and lots of cheese, actually. We don't have my favourite cheese, though, which I'm very disappointed
What's your favourite
about.
Cheese?
Well, I'm a simple person, and I just like...
I hadn't noticed.
I know, well, you're too kind. Just like a simple, basic cheddar. But like
What's that? That's a red cheddar.
No, the pale
Should
one.
we show-
I don't want,
should we
I
show
want
viewers?
The pale one, everybody.
Should we show viewers our rather...
Look, it's this
Look at
one.
this.
I don't mind that.
Here we are.
I will eat that if that's all
Here
that's
we are.
available. I don't mean to be ungrateful, but I do prefer like the paler coloured cheddar, if you know what I mean.
I tell you what, though, that one on the left with the red currants, it only appeared a few years ago, and it's everywhere now.
Well, there you go. Enough of the cheesy
Thanks for that,
talk.
Bill.
Do you see what I did there? Yeah, enough of the cheesy talk. He's getting a little bit too into it now. He's going to be telling us all kinds of stats and statistics about the cheese. We'll be falling asleep after all of this. So, you know what? Without further ado, let's take a look back then, shall we? Because I couldn't start this programme without delving into the general election in July, of course. It took so many of us by surprise, didn't it? Shall we remind ourselves of some of the key moments?
Earlier today, I spoke with His Majesty the King to request the dissolution of Parliament. The King has granted this request, and we will have a general election on the 4th of July.
So I promise this, a new mindset, mission government, an understanding at the core of everything we do.
2024, the year the voters finally get to pack up this awful, out-of-touch Conservative government.
But I hope and believe we can get a cohort of MPs in Westminster so that we can be the voice of opposition.
We did it! You campaigned for it, you fought for it, you voted for it, and now it has arrived. Change begins now.
Got to say, some of that stuff feels literally just like yesterday, doesn't it? Let's just recap. Where was you the night of the election? Here?
I was sat in this very chair, as the results rolled in, and we were trying to figure out what the exit poll would mean in terms of the majority. And, of course, you saw that big sweeping Labour majority. But, you know, looking back, what strikes me today, Michelle, is something that Peter Thiel, who's a big tech guy in the US, said about the re-election of Donald Trump. Of course, this year also saw that sweeping realignment. And he said, interestingly, he said, if Trump had lost this year, 2016 will forever be seen as the freak outlier. But because Trump won, 2016 will now be seen as the beginning of a new era. And I think the 24 election in the UK, I'm willing to bet, will be seen by historians in the same sense, because I thought what we saw this year was the beginning of the Farage reform revolt, which I think will just get bigger and bigger. We saw the two old parties struggling to captivate enthusiasm. Yes, Labour won, but we all know it wasn't really a vote of big enthusiasm in Starmer's Labour. And the demise of the British Conservative Party, the demise of the Tories. I think 2024 will come to be seen as actually a seismic election that is ushering in this new era of realigned politics.
Where was you on the election night, Bill Rammel?
I was at the count in my former constituency of Harlow, cheering in the new Labour MP. More interestingly was the calling of the general election. I was sitting at home at lunchtime on the day the election was called, and I got a text from GBNews saying, if the election is called this afternoon, will you come into the studio this evening? And I just roared myself with laughter.
Did
I thought,
you?
they're having a joke. And I tell that story because it still beggars belief that Sunak went to the country when he did. And I think majorly he just had enough and he wanted to go to the country. And there was that huge landslide. But I said before the election, Labour would be elected and be the first party to be elected with a landslide, with no enthusiasm. And I think that's part of the problem that Labour is grappling with in government.
When you say huge landslide, I know there'll be many people who'll be watching this in their Christmas festive attire and they'll be shouting and going, well, hang on a second, yes, technically it was a landslide, but of course many people will say only 20% of the electorate there or thereabouts voted in this government.
And that's true, but, you know, you play by the rules, and Labour did get a landslide, but it wasn't with enthusiasm, and that's the challenge that it is facing. But it does have a significant mandate. Now, I'm the first to admit that the first 5 months have not been brilliant. I don't agree with
understatement of the century.
Well, I don't agree with you, Matt, that 2024 is a seismic election that will lead to the inexorable rise of reform, because I think reform has got a ceiling of about 25% of the vote, because for every one voter that Farage inspires, he repels two, and I don't think there's a sustainable coalition to win the general election.
But it's interesting, isn't it? I remember a lot of people, Bill, saying that to me when they were at 15%. A lot of folks in Westminster would say, well, Nigel can never get over 15% of the national vote. But as we're talking now, December 2024, the polling now, reform on 25%, 1 in 4 voters. Yeah. And I think the one thing about this year, and this is true across the West, actually, not just in the UK, what we've seen this year is the unavoidable fact that what we call volatility in politics, the churn, the chaos, voters switching around like consumers in Sainsbury's, no longer tribally loyal, that's now become this permanent feature of politics. So anything can happen in 2029. A guy said to me yesterday, so you don't really think a new party could win the next general election, do you? And my answer was, actually, I think anything is possible. I think we are where Labour were, Bill, in the early 1900s, when everyone said, well, this little working-class party isn't going to overtake the Liberals, is it? And out of nowhere, boom, Labour overtook the Liberals.
I think there are 3 reasons why Reform's not going to win the next general election. One is history, and history does matter, and a party has never come from that low to win a general election in one parliament. The second reason is geography. Yes, Reform is at about 25% of the vote, but it's spread very thinly across the country. And under first past the post, that doesn't win you seats.
It's not spread thinly.
The third reason is organisation. The Reform organisation at the last general election was chaotic, and I don't think there's a real sense that it's being pulled together. And finally, if it does look like Farage is moving forward, is in a real contender for victory, he will come under massive scrutiny. And there, the policies don't add up. You know, £70 billion of public spending cuts. Is that what the public wants?
Hang on a second. We're watching Farage hang out with Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, Elon Musk, Donald Trump in Mar-a-Lago. Sorry, Bill, but he seems like he's closer to the incoming American administration than the governing Labour Party. I mean, it looks like this guy that you're sort of undermining here looks like he's got better relations with the next president of the US than Keir Starmer.
We will build a working relationship with the Trump administration, but there's no doubt...
Oh, we know what Labour thinks about the Trump administration and David Lammy.
And we know what the British people think about Trump. I still think Trump is a significant danger to the American country and to the international community.
I think Keir Starmer's a danger to the British community, if I'm honest, given what he's done with Chagos and China.
Well, there you go. You've just teed me up nicely there, because he says about what do Brits think about Donald Trump. Before the end of the programme, we'll be looking at that election results over in the States and asking what does that mean for the future of Britain. You've just mentioned there Starmer and his popularity after the break. It'd be rude, wouldn't it, not to look then at Labour's first budget. What did you think to this? Was you cheering on some of those measures? Do you think that they've got their priorities right or not? We'll discuss after the break.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Penelope's, which is situated in the sophisticated Hotel Armano in Covent Garden, delivers punchy dishes from the executive chef Fez Ozalgan. London-born, she's of Turkish Cypriot heritage, and at the tender age of 16, she enrolled at catering college. So It's lovely to see you, Fez. Welcome to the programme.
Thank you.
So you're now in a very prestigious position. I'm always impressed that in the world of chefing, it's possible to get to very senior positions quite young, if you're good enough. Talent is rewarded, is it not?
Definitely, yeah. It does take a lot of hard work, for sure. But, yes.
When did you know that you wanted to be a chef?
Honestly, because my parents have a cafe in Barking. And I used to go there when I was younger, in school holidays and weekends to help them. And actually, I'll be honest, I just used to really admire everyone calling my dad chef, and that's what I wanted.
And what about your food inspirations? Because I believe the food that you produce now is what? Mediterranean influenced and also to some extent Middle East influenced?
Yeah, and Spanish as well, at Penelope's, yeah. So our concept at Penelope's, our CEO, Ariel, he is Israeli, but he grew up in Marbella. So, yeah.
These are the great influences.
Yeah.
What have you brought here today?
OK, so we have our sea bream tartare, which is a really good inspiration of both Spanish and Israeli. It's marinated with harissa, and it's served with a really nice gazpacho sauce, caviar on top.
I wonder whether the camera can see that. It is the most gorgeous coloured sauce on top of my sea bream tartare. That's marvellous.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hello there, welcome back everybody to this Christmas special of Dewbs and Co. Dewberry Tavern is of course still open, so I send my cheers to each and every single one of you. It's a treat to be spending this Christmas with you alongside me. He's very excited to be here, I've got to say. Matt Goodwin, have you ever... we could press pause on you doing that there. That could be the Christmas card for next year.
Well,
Your cheesy thumbs up. Couldn't it? Look at that. There you go. That's a Christmas card if I ever saw one.
I'll order
and alongside,
one.
You'll order one. And alongside him, we've
It's
got
a Grinch.
Bill Rammel. You're not the Grinch.
I'm not the Grinch at all.
If you're listening on the radio, you're not watching on telly, you are missing the treat of the festive hats on display. I think yours looks the best, Bill. Just the way it's kind of balanced on your head. You can tell that you really want to be wearing this.
Probably got it from Lord Ali.
Well, yeah, we'll say Lord Ali. Do you remember all of that this year as well? We're looking back as part of this programme on some of the highs and lows of this year. Well, of course, it'd be rude, wouldn't it, then, not to look at Labour's first budget. Of course, we saw this. It really did divide opinion, didn't it? Some people say it was great. It had things like your compensation schemes for the postmasters. Those people also compensation for the infected blood scandal victims. Labour would argue you had extra funding for the NHS and housing and teachers and all the rest of it. And that's really interesting. But the bits that most people will remember are things like the winter fuel allowance cut, farmers' inheritance tax and so on. The bit that I'll remember personally, though, is this.
£22 billion black hole. The government has inherited a £22 billion black hole in the public finances.
We have inherited a projected overspend of £22 billion. A £22 billion hole in the public finances now.
Yeah.
Not in the future, but now. £22 billion of spending this year that was covered up.
In fact, here's a...
See, honestly, it makes me jump to a start then. It almost sends me to sleep, that 22 billion on repeat. It has the opposite effect of what it was intended. I'm sure it literally just makes people zone off, certainly me anyway. What was your memories, the highs and lows of the budget?
Well, the 22 billion was interesting, isn't it? Because everybody from, you know, Paul Johnson, the head of the respected Institute for Fiscal Studies, through to senior business journalists, have all said this is absolute nonsense. Yes, they have. Yes, they have. Hang on a minute, Bill. Hang on a minute, Bill.
If they knew at the Tory spring budget what they know now, their forecasts would have been materially different. That's as close as the OBR comes to accusing the last government of lying.
I don't know. How many of those little drinks have you had? I'm telling you, because everybody in Westminster knows. Everybody knows the numbers were there in the books, and what Labour are trying to do. I understand why they're trying to do it. I understand the politics. It's not us, Gov. It was the people who came before, but no one's buying it anymore. Which is why, as we sit here, December 24, Keir Starmer's ratings -32. Rachel Reeves is basically the same. That's what I'd call Prince Andrew territory in the polling world. Everybody can see through this, and it's about you know. I think for me this year, it was about the political choices that this Labour government has made. Like, we always knew that Labour were going to be bad with the economy, because Labour are always bad with the economy. The only time Labour's been good with the economy is New Labour, when they inherited much of the legacy of the Conservative administration. But the thing that really got me was the choices. Let's smash British pensioners to save 1.5 billion, while not doing anything with our asylum system, which is costing us 5.4 billion. Let's smash family farms up and down the country to save 500 million. Well, let's give countries around the world 100 million in the misguided hope that it will stop migration upstream. We even just found 11 million quid for Syria out of nowhere. That's about 35,000 winter fuel payments for British pensioners that we could have given. It's just these little political choices that the Labour government has made. And here we are again, big state, low growth, big tax, big regulation economy, with growth rates, Bill. If we come back and do this in 5 years, it's growth rates of 1.5%. Dismal.
The international forecast is that the UK economy will perform amongst the best in the world in the year ahead. Let's come back.
Not over the next 5 years, and you know what's true and what isn't.
Let's come back to reality. We can have a debate about the size of the black hole, but this Labour government has had the worst fiscal inheritance of any government I can recall in my lifetime. Yes, there was a hole. Yes, there were a whole host of projects that were there, but there was no funding for them. You know, the 30 hospitals that were supposed to be built, not a penny of public funding for them. The commitment to move to 2.5% of GDP for defence, no funding there at all, just a press release. That's what Labour has had to grapple with. Now, we said we wouldn't raise the direct personal taxes on working people, and we did not do that. That means to get the investment that you do need some taxes to go up. And Labour has levied those on businesses and on the wealthy through inheritance tax. I think that is the right choice. And it has delivered 22 billion extra for the National Health Service, £1 billion to tackle homelessness, a record settlement for local government. The key will be the impact of that investment. And as it starts to deliver, I think you will see a change in political
look at what some of the other choices this government has made, because there's a lot there I could take issue with. Here's a little thing that really grinds me, right? Really irritates me. Labour's even removed the requirement that we should prioritise British nationals when allocating social housing. Now, why has it done that? Now, I would argue because
local councils have the ability to make that priority.
Labour fundamentally is not really about prioritising the British people over other people. And that's basically what's happened. So what we've got here for the next 5 years
is a good slogan, but it's not true.
Well, it's actually what they've done.
The last Labour government, unlike the Tories, significantly reduced asylum and immigration. This government is already beginning to make progress. Deportations are at record levels.
Yeah, but record numbers of flights, asylum rates, Bill.
Record numbers of flights, taking people back overseas, deals with countries like Iraq to stop migrants upstream. That will begin more and more to have an impact of reducing immigration.
Sure, but this is where we are with the old parties. They're just lying to the country over and over what Labour have done in order to pretend...
Matt, you're an advocate for reform. I understand that. But
I'm an advocate for no political party, but I'm here to say that when Conservatives and now Labour are saying they're controlling the asylum system, let's be honest, this was the year, 24 was the year where immigration became the #1 issue in the country. It's the #1 issue in all the polls. Now,
no, it's not.
It is.
No,
it's the issue
it's
tracker.
not. The economy and living standards are the most important.
It isn't.
I acknowledge that immigration is important, and it needs to be tackled.
I'm going to just respond to this, because when you say we're sending all of these people outside of Britain, not true. What Labour are doing is anyone who's made it to Britain, including those who have arrived illegally, they're giving 2/3 of those people the right to asylum, which is basically like saying to Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam and anywhere else in the world, come to Britain and we'll rubber stamp your rights as well.
Deportations, removing people from this country,
you've removed 6,000 to 9,000.
Have seen a 30% increase.
And you've allowed 60,000.
That is real.
You've allowed 60,000 people to stay.
Yes, because allowing people to come here, not dealing with their claims,
illegally,
as the last government did, was like a green flag to come to this country. Your claim won't be dealt with. You can disappear into the black economy, and nothing will be done. We couldn't go on like that.
2024 was the year where, again, everybody lied to the British people.
Well, I can just hear the cheers that have just gone up on the surface on that last statement. I can hear you from here. Look, so many of you have been in touch with me as well, wishing yourselves, each other, a very Merry Christmas. Mike, you're very nice. You said the highlight of his year has been getting to watch us 5 evenings a week. Thank you, Mike. We appreciate that very much. There is still lots that we need to discuss on Dewbs & Co. This Christmas special, Donald Trump. You can't argue, whatever you think of him. A key moment of 2024 is his election. What will it mean for the future of the UK? And also, awful, awful scenes that we saw in the middle of this year, the murder of those 3 little girls in Southport. I want to look back on that and, of course, the protests and riots that followed that too. Don't go anywhere.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Very little sign of anything white this Christmas. It's going to be mild, it's going to be mostly cloudy, but some brighter spells are likely in places by Christmas Day afternoon. We've got this Atlantic airflow at the moment. A warm front's gone through, left a legacy of cloudy skies across the UK. That cloud low, sitting on the hills of northern and western parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, England and Wales. Some drizzle here and there, but mostly the persistent rain now is confined to the far northwest of Scotland, where it's going to be a windy start to Christmas. And these are the temperatures first thing Christmas Day, 9 to 12 Celsius. So no cold expected, but there will be some cloud breaks and a brighter day is likely across parts of England and Wales, particularly East Wales into the Midlands, southern England, the cloud breaking to give some sunny spells at times. Thicker cloud expected further north across Northern Ireland, Northern England, much of Scotland, although northeast Scotland once again likely to see the cloud break up as it makes its way over the hills and mountains. And that's why northeastern parts of the UK will be warmest on Christmas Day, similar to Christmas Eve, but a degree or so less mild. And actually for the southern half of the UK with some decent cloud breaks developing by the afternoon, it's not looking too bad if you're planning a Christmas Day walk. Light winds, feeling pleasant enough, 11 to 13 Celsius, possible 14 to the northeast of Scotland, northeast England. And then into Boxing Day, well, we've got further rain across much of northern and western Scotland, pushing into Northern Ireland, southern Scotland through the course of the day. To the south of that, a lot of cloud remains, but still some cloud breaks to the east and brightening up in the far north of Scotland later on. A similar idea on Friday. Into the weekend, it turns a little colder, but also a little brighter.
The latest GB News travel.
Good evening, I'm Samantha Dean. In Lancashire, the M6 southbound partially blocked slow traffic following an accident from junction 33 Lancaster South to 32 where it meets the M55 at the Broughton interchange. Waddingham in Lincolnshire, the A15's closed due to accident investigation work from the B1205 Curtin Lindsay turnoff to the A631 at Caneby Corner. In Leicestershire, the M1 northbound slow traffic due to an earlier accident at junction 23 at Ashby Road East. At Barming in Kent, the A26 Tunbridge Road is closed due to an accident from the Bull Pub to Glebe Lane. Taunton in Somerset, the A3027 East Street's closed due to an accident between Corporation Street and the Racehorse Inn.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Well, we started this programme by looking backwards at some of the key points of the year. We've looked at the election, we've looked at the Labour budget and looked at what that meant at the time and may mean going forward for the country. But of course, one of the most monumental moments of 2024 was the horrendous situation which unfolded in Southport, which saw the murder of three innocent little girls. The only thing that they were doing were attending a Taylor Swift concert with their friends to learn the dance routines of their idol. We all know what happened next, but let's take a second to remind ourselves.
Arrested on suspicion of murder and attempted murder after two children died during a ferocious knife attack in Southport on Merseyside today. 9 other children have been injured in the attack. 6 of those are in a critical condition in hospital. They all sustained stab wounds.
Whether the truth is being withheld from us, I don't know the answer to that, but I think it is a fair and legitimate question.
Police have condemned the disorder which broke out in Southport this evening on Merseyside, where earlier a vigil was held to remember the 3 little girls killed in a multiple knife attack.
I am very worried about high levels of knife crime, and I'm absolutely determined that my government will get to grips with it. But today is not the time for politics. Today is the time to focus entirely on the families who are going through such pain and grief.
Elsie Dot Stankham, Alice Aguirre and Bebe King, who are 9, 7 and 6 years old.
I am heartbroken about this incident, as any parent or same-minded person would be.
Now they're learning that crime has consequences, that I won't tolerate a breakdown in law and order under any circumstances. And I will not listen to those who exploit grieving families and disrespect local communities. But these riots didn't happen in a vacuum. They exposed the state of our country, revealed a deeply unhealthy society, the cracks in our foundations laid bare, weakened by a decade of division and decline, infected by a spiral of populism which fed off cycles of failure of the last government. I won't shy away from calling it what it is: far-right thuggery. To those who feel targeted because of the colour of your skin or your faith, I know how frightening this must be. I want you to know that this violent mob do not represent our country, and we will bring them to justice. Many people across the country are concerned about immigration, but they wouldn't for a minute go onto the street and throw a brick at a police officer. The disorder is intolerable. It is incapable of justification. It's clearly racist, and I'm now expecting substantive sentencing before the end of this week. That should send a very powerful message. We had police deployed in numbers in the right places, giving reassurance to communities. We were able to demonstrate the criminal justice system working speedily. In relation to online and social media, the first thing I'd say is this is not a law-free zone. And I think that's clear from the prosecutions and sentencing. Today we're due sentencing for online behaviour. That's a reminder to everyone that whether you're directly involved or whether you're remotely involved, you're culpable and you will be put before the courts if you've broken the law.
I mean, that is just absolutely awful. The entire country, understandably, was shaken by what happened in Southport. We've just been reminding people of what unfolded next. Matt Goodwin, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think obviously it was a watershed moment in our country's history. I think it also became a lightning rod for so much else. I mean, it wasn't only the fact that for millions of people in this country, the Southport atrocities were clearly linked to much bigger issues around migration, broken borders, people not feeling safe and secure in Britain. But as we've since discovered, the atrocities were also really about our free speech crisis, the clampdown on free expression, the state not telling people what it knows and when it knows those things. And we've seen MPs like Rupert Lowe and others in Parliament now really running with that campaign and saying, look, you've got to give people the information. You've got to let them know what's going on. And I think as we look ahead to 25, clearly the court case, which we need to be very careful about, but the court case will be one of the biggest stories in 2025 as well.
Of course, it is. It will be commencing that court case on the very same day of the inauguration over in the States. I have just got to say there was so much misinformation and false information as well coming out of social media around those times. Bill, your thoughts?
I think you've got to separate the two things. I mean, one, what happened to those three girls was disgusting and appalling and breaks your heart. Utterly unacceptable. But then what flowed from it was, again, unacceptable. And Matt, you've just said something that you've not got a shred of evidence for. There's not a shred of evidence to back that up. And statements like that, and there were others during those days afterwards, you know, Nigel Farage was at the forefront of spreading false information. It led to a scale of violence, thuggery and attempted murder that I've not seen on our streets before. You know, firebombing hotels where people were living, storming mosques, you know, throwing bricks at the police. And I think in those circumstances, there had to be a coordinated action between the government, the police and the courts to restore order very quickly. And that happened, and I welcome it. None of that means that it is wrong for people to debate, to question and criticise immigration. That's absolutely right and proper, but violence and thuggery is not.
I'm glad you said that, Bill, because I think what has frustrated so many people in this country was that they could see this very clear, as you said yourself, this very clear attempt to manage a population, to clamp down very hard, and let's be honest, Bill, some of the things, in some cases, but some of the things that have been said on Facebook, I've read some of the cases in detail. Some of the things that people have said on Facebook actually strike me as not views I would share, but being pretty direct. I wouldn't I wouldn't view them as illegal statements about the impact of immigration on the country. And I've looked at some of these cases since Southport, and I've thought there's quite a lot of state overreach going on here in this case. Now, when there's violence involved, it's a different matter. But I think what many people can sense is that the state, in the aftermath of Southport, overreached and kind of went after people that maybe it should not have gone after.
Well, look, you and I have debated this before, and you know I'm a very, very strong defender and supporter of freedom of speech and open debate. But there is a line, and the line is committing acts of violence or inciting people to commit acts of violence. And every one of those demonstrators who has been sentenced has been found guilty in a court of law of deliberately inciting violence.
often by judges who didn't imprison, for example, paedophiles, which we know now know is the case. The other thing about 2024... Bill, this is really interesting.
If someone
people at home will be saying
24 incites violence, do you think they should be prosecuted?
Do you think that a guy at home saying, pondering out loud, mass immigration might lead to conflict on our streets should go to prison?
No.
Right, well, he did. There was a military veteran with PTSD who was sent to prison. The other thing is lots of people at home...
all the other things
lots of people at home will be there...
get convicted for incitement to violence.
There were people who went to prison this year who I don't think... to be frank, I'm a bit more radical than most people in that I don't believe anybody really should go to prison for something they write on social media in the privacy of their own home. I think it's Orwellian to drag people out of their homes, put them into prison for something they've said online. Now, if it is deliberate incitement to violence, absolutely, that's a problem. But if it's I'm not really comfortable with immigration, or I'm not really comfortable with Islam in British life, I think that should be allowed.
Sent to prison for that.
Bill, there are some very borderline cases this year. The other thing that this year where this is interesting, the first is people have watched, for example, Hugh Edwards not go to prison, but they've watched people who have said pretty, not extreme views, and they've gone to prison. That's been one of the interesting things this year. And the other thing is X. The platform X. We've seen a mass exodus of so-called liberals from X leave because they can't tolerate different views. And at the same time, I think many people out there now say, thank God for Elon Musk. Thank God that we can really see what's going on.
One of the problems in these debates is selective quoting of the evidence in cases. And you're doing it ad infinitum, Matthew. If you go to the record of those court judgments, there were serious incitements to violence in terms of people who went to prison, and I think that was right.
Well, what about Hugh Edwards?
It's a separate case.
But this is what people are asking.
He wasn't inciting people to violence.
So you don't think he should have gone to prison?
I honestly don't know enough about the case.
I think if you download indecent images of children, you should go to prison.
Well, look, I've always said if I was the Prime Minister of this country, which I always say to you, it's a good thing that I'm not, quite frankly, I would make sure that anyone that viewed any child abuse imagery was behind bars, but that's just me. I mean, the key point in this Southport situation, there's been so much speculation, and that will continue. But really, this is an ongoing legal case. The facts of the matters will really only become clear once that legal case commences in the new year. But I do just think it's really important just to take a second to remember that at the heart of this story, 3 little girls lost their lives. I cannot even imagine what their families and loved ones must be going through this Christmas. And I do just want to say my heart goes out to each and every single one of you.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
No snow for the UK this Christmas, but there is across other parts of Europe, particularly across the southeast. Generally fine and sunny for the Canaries on Christmas Day, and across Madeira as well. That will be quite windy here. Plenty of winter sunshine on offer across Iberia, but it will be turning cooler here with the winds coming down from the north. Heavy rain across the Balkans and Italy on Christmas Eve, clearing, but some snow flurries following, and some heavy downpours across Greece and Turkey. Sunny skies in Barcelona, but not very warm.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
1 in 20 people are diagnosed with seasonal affective disorder across the UK.
Yes, Healthwatch has revealed that men are more likely to suffer from this than women. Did you know?
Triggers apparently include a decrease in daylight hours, which is certainly happening around about now. If you're leaving the office, it's dark. When you come home, it's dark, as well as the falling temperatures.
Yes, and both of those things happen a lot, don't they, here in Britain? So how can we combat the symptoms of seasonal affective disorder? Well, to discuss this, we're joined now by Dr. Andreas Fonseca, the founder and director of Thrive Mental Wellbeing. Really good to see you this morning, Doctor. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Now, there'll be lots of people watching and listening this morning and saying, what a load of rubbish. It's always been cold in this country. It's always been dark. What is seasonal affective disorder? Is it really a thing?
Well, it is a thing, and it's been known for quite some time. This is not new, really. It is a form of depression. That's what it is. And it's got specific characteristics that kind of differentiate it from other forms of depression. So the reason probably we're talking more about it is because it's basically people are more aware of it and they're recognizing it more. So before you used to be sort of just saying this person's got depression, now you have some specific things to look at that can differentiate it from other kinds of depression, which is quite useful because it's got some specific forms of treatment. So the things that are different about seasonal affective disorder are that for the diagnosis you need 2 years in which you only have episodes during either the late autumn or early winter. So that's when they start, and they fade away by late spring, summer. Early summer. So that's how it works. And you cannot have any episodes at any other time. So it has to be seasonal, specifically seasonal.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Hello there, welcome back to Dewbs & Co, the Christmas special with me, Michelle Dewberry, also alongside me. Some of my faves, Matt Goodwin, the Polesden academic, and Bill Rammell, the former Labour minister. Lots of you have been writing into me with your highs and your lows and your Christmas trees. We started off this programme talking about the election. I can tell you one of the highs of my 2024, I don't mind indulging myself for a second, I hope you don't mind either. It was this moment, the GB News election party over in Essex. Many of you kept me company there, but this was a particular highlight. Listen. Oh, honestly, I could just sack off the rest of the show and sit and listen to him doing his Elvis music. Absolutely superb. I say cheers to him again, and cheers to each and every single one of you at home. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Let's have a quick look at some of the trees then. They're in the living rooms of our viewers as you speak. Look at this. That's a nice traditional one. Oh, nice. That's got a wide bottom, that one has. Nice and colourful. Look at this. You're a creative... Oh, massive Santa there. Is that a picture or a bare window? I can't quite work out because I'm looking at this on a small screen. I think it's a massive Santa statue.
in a bay window. I like it. Oh, it's a little grotto I think they've set up. I like that. What's been your highs 2024?
Oh, it's got to be coming on this show with you, Michelle.
Thank you. Let's just cut the programme there.
Can I just
Carry on.
dangle a little bit of mistletoe?
No,
you got any mistletoe
get
backstage?
Out of it. Hang on, I'll go backwards. Bill Rammell can step in. We're an inclusive, progressive organisation.
I would say highlight, well, you know, the US election. That was a really big moment for me. I mean, watching that big Trump landslide, I think that was really interesting. Being down on the ground in Clacton, actually, and just seeing, you know, that kind of pivotal moment of Nigel Farage going into the House of Commons, I think for many people that was quite a big moment. But yeah, for me, it's this kind of more evidence of what I've been working on for 10, 15 years, that actually this realignment that is unfolding across the West is real, and it's accelerating. And I think many people, for the first time in a long time, Michelle, maybe people watching this, are feeling like, actually, my voice is in the public debate now. I am actually applying pressure on the system.
Bill, your highs of 2024?
I'd be less than honest if I didn't say it was the Labour general election victory. After 14 years in opposition, to get a majority of 172 was absolutely fantastic. So that was the high. The low, unlike Matthew, was the election of Donald Trump. And I'm not in government, I'm not on the front bench, I can say I think it's a disaster.
Oh, Scrooge over there.
I want to bring you guys in, and then I'll bring in Donald Trump as well, because I'm telling you now, lots of you guys got in touch with me. I asked you for your highs and lows, and I'm not just saying this, but lots of people. Kieran, you've said your biggest high was Donald Trump winning without a question, he says. Me and my girlfriend were overjoyed. We celebrated with copious amounts of champagne. I hope you've recovered from said copious amounts. Brian said, politics seems to dominate everything, and the highs for me, however, will always be the recovery. This is nice. The recovery of King Charles and Kate. And he says, I hope that will be a permanent recovery.
That's a good one.
And he says the lows, simple, he says, the betrayal and dishonesty of the Labour government. No, says the election of Nigel Farage to Parliament was a massive high for him. He says the lowest of the lows was Reeves and Starmer scrapping the winter fuel allowance. He says he doesn't know how Keir Starmer sleeps. Ray says the lows was that my cat went missing. Oh, but the highs was that he came back 1 week later. Yay! We do like a happy ending, Ray, so we do on this programme. Look, Donald Trump, then, let's just finish just reflecting on him. What do you think his election will mean for the UK?
I think it's a seismic moment. I mean, the implications are enormous. I think it offers us an opportunity to do something different other than what the Labour government obviously wants us to do, which is, you know, become chained to a stagnating, declining European bloc that is divided politically and unproductive economically. I think Trump offers us actually a genuine alternative. I think he also, for many people, and one of your viewers, I think, has just summarised that, you know, it's a big pushback against this creeping censorship and clampdown on free speech that we've all felt in recent years. Trump's not tolerating that. It's a big pushback against woke ideology. Trump's not tolerating that. It's a big pushback against China, against all of those authoritarian regimes. Well, Keir Starmer's just signing a new economic relationship with China. Well, Trump's not putting up with that. He's actually, you know, if anything, you know, maybe I'm being... No, I think I'm right in saying this. I think 2024 saw the West reasserting itself, the return of someone who is unapologetic in saying Western civilization is the greatest civilization this planet's ever seen, and we're going to defend it and promote it.
Bill?
I know it's Christmas and you're supposed to be charitable, but Matt, that's the biggest load of bunkum I've ever heard.
Well, it's not surprising someone on the left doesn't believe in us, but there we are.
To free speech. This is a man who's now going to use the power of the presidency to go after the press and go after people who've been critical of him. That's not the mark of a Democrat. That's the mark of a dictator. You talk about a beacon of hope for the West. This is a man who sucks up to Putin, sucks up to dictators. He's got an economic agenda that's going to be damaging for the world and damaging for this country. His commitments to tariffs are economically illiterate, and he's committed to a budget deficit that dwarfs, in terms of unfunded tax cuts, that which Liz Truss put forward. I'll give one ground of hope, though. Trump likes to be seen as a good guy, and he likes to be seen as someone who brings peace, and he might just be the person who forces Israel into a longer-term settlement with the Palestinians. And that, if he does that, it would be a good thing.
One thing that I can be absolutely sure of when it comes to 2025 is that the debate regarding Donald Trump is going to go absolutely nowhere. I imagine that among some of your households this Christmas, the debate will be fierce about Donald Trump and whether or not you support him, love him or loathe him. Many people have got in touch as well about their highs. Luke Littner, remember that name? I love this guy. Many people saying that this is your high of 2024 as well. Take a look. There he is. Look at him. I was glued to the darts, I have to say, when he was playing for the first time. I've always wanted to go to Ali Pali, actually, and get dressed up. I've never quite managed it, but I have to put that on my resolution list of something that I want to do. But look, our time has almost come to an end. I do just want to take a second then by ending by saying thank you to each and every single one of you who've chosen to be with us, not just over the last hour, of which, of course, I appreciate, but much broader. We really do. We like all of our viewers, and we do feel like quite a big family here on GB News. So when you're spending time with your loved ones and your family, tell them about GB News. They'll all be very welcome to come and join us as viewers and listeners in 2025. But look, whatever the year ahead holds for us, we will be right here with you along your side for all the highs and all the lows. And don't worry, we will get through it together. But for now, from me, from all of us here on GB News, we wish you a very, very Merry Christmas. We'll see you on the other side. Cheers.
Cheers, everybody. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Cheers.
The latest GB News travel.
Good evening, I'm Samantha Dean. In Waddingham in Lincolnshire, the A15's closed due to accident investigation work. That's from the B1205 Curtin Lindsay turnoff to the A631 at Caneby Corner. In the West Midlands, the M6 northbound one lane's closed, queuing traffic due to a broken down vehicle after junction 5 Chester Road at Castle Bromwich. Oxfordshire, the M40 southbound one lane's closed, queuing traffic due to emergency barrier repairs between junction 7 at Tame and junction 6 at Watlington. In London, the M4 eastbound one lane's closed due to a broken down vehicle from junction 4 at Heathrow to 3 at Hayes. And at Barming in Kent, the A26 Tunbridge Road closed due to an accident from the Pool Pub to Glebe Lane.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Imagine getting a call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
Oh my God.
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God. This is amazing.
I'm in shock.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 090